So here in front of me now, we have a Cosmographie. And just to talk a little bit about the cosmographic genre before getting into this book, Cosmographie were primarily a Renaissance genre. So we see French cosmographie really making a strong presence in 16th century France. This one here is from 1544. It's actually a later edition from a 1524 edition that was originally published in Latin. They can vary, but the more global definition of what a cosmographie is that it is a comprehensive study of the universe. So we see everything in them, really. We see literature in them, we see poems in them, we see ballads alongside scientific texts, and maybe something on astronomy. We'll see a poem next to that. You will find instructions for scientific instruments, smaller models of them, actually, in these books. And yes, data on towns and cities, rivers, the range can be quite great. So this one here was published by Peter Apian, and like I said before, it's actually a French edition of an earlier Latin edition. It was published in 1524. And we see a little globe on the front here and a little instrument down here, which is partly a carré, which I showed you in Laurence Fien's work. So if we flip to the next page, we see a rondeau, which is a poem here at the beginning, and then we start getting into the actual Cosmographie. But this is all the same work, or it was considered to be all the same genre at the time, with poems and scientific illustrations and explanations of natural phenomena. So here we have a few interesting features. We are seeing globes here. And essentially what this one is trying to convey on this page, de la géographie, on geography, is that the cosmographe, the cosmographer, this is meant to be a cosmograph with this little eye that we see here, is meant to try to convey the whole of something in words or through illustrations. Here the whole is the earth, okay? So it is important to talk about and to convey something in its purest form. This is kind of hard to do, especially at this time when we don't have full understanding of the earth and all of its phenomena. And here we are seeing sort of a comparison between the human body and landscapes. We see the head being compared to a globe here, and we see smaller features on the face, the ear, and the eye actually being compared to the smaller features on this globe. Such as here it's a town, it could be a mountain, it could be a lake, depending on the cosmograph, but here we are seeing this comparison being drawn. And these sorts of comparisons that were drawn between the human body and natural landforms were meant to sort of better understand the world through the human body, which is a very humanist theme here, which is another philosophy that we see in the Renaissance at this time. So one of the most interesting things about Peter Apian's Cosmographie, it's probably one of the most famous cosmographie in the world because of this, are these little turning cards called volvelles. So this is a volvelle, a really awesome one in this book. And we can see that it's made up of several little dials here. Here on this specific volvelle, we see one dial is the moon and one dial is the sun. And if we turn these cards, we see this little circle in the middle start to take shape, like so. And what this little circle is in the middle is actually a moon phase. And what this is meant to do is show you how the sun's position relative to the moon is what's actually, and the earth, the moon and the earth is actually what's creating the moon phase here. So one important thing to keep in mind while looking at these things is that we are strongly in a geocentric system at this time. It took a while for Copernicus's theory on heliocentrism, meaning that the sun is at the center of the solar system. It took a while for that to be adopted. It was not fully adopted by the general public until the early 17th century. But yes, so much of this book is recounting the world in general from a geocentric perspective. So we have to imagine the Earth at the center of the cosmos, or at that time, what they thought of as the whole entire universe as our solar system. So here we have, to come back to this little volvel here we have something showing us how to get a moon phase in a geocentric system. And how this table was made was that there was a table of data that was taken from a while back. I don't know exactly when, but they would take tables of data and make these little volvels here from them. So this is not meant to be a scientific instrument that you would use on a daily basis. It's just meant to show and to illustrate a general concept of some type of principle involving celestial bodies or natural phenomena. And overall, this is a very interesting example of a cosmography based on the volvel. We see data from towns here. Just everything about it is so cool. So here we have a woodcut engraving. It's quite cryptic, of the sun and the moon, and we see what is supposed to be the Earth at the center. And what this is meant to do is that it is meant to show that the Earth is round. And the only way that we can show that through this illustration specifically is that the moon's phases, we see a crescent, so some sort of like rounded shape, which we see here on the moon. We see a sort of rounded shape being cut out of the moon because the Earth is round. So it goes through a bunch of several different possibilities. We see a sad moon, a happy moon, a cheeky moon. There are several different expressions like being shown on their face here. The only one that is quite just unamusing is the actual true scientific illustration here at the top. But as we go through these different shapes, essentially what is being shown is that the Earth has to be round because moon phases are rounded. So we see a diamond Earth shape in the middle here with all these little people on it. And then we see the moon having a diamond phase, which we know not to be true. And then a triangle with a triangle phase on the moon, which we also know not to be true, and so on and so forth. Overall, Peter Apian's Cosmography was a wonderful way to get the general public interested in science, because it was priced actually at the time for more middle-class people. And what we see is science being shown in a more general way on the inside of the book with the volvel and with these illustrations that make it more accessible overall.